Hi, I'm Melinda, and today I'm going to be talking about essay structure again. I want to start today by taking a step backwards and asking you to think about the person marking your essay. What are they looking for? Let's start with something as basic as the cover page. What's the cover page, you ask? It's a page that you put at the front of your essay on which you write details such as the title of the subject, the day of your class, your student ID number, and your name. Imagine that you are a lecturer who teaches 2 or 3 different subjects and you have 180 students. The first thing you will want to do is to make sure that you know which essays belong to which course. So you'll look for the course code. If you are teaching the same subject to 2 or 3 different groups, you'll want to know if a particular paper is from Tuesday, Wednesday, or the Thursday class. Once you've marked the paper, you'll want to record the mark against the student's ID number on your record. So you're going to be looking for the student's ID too, and their name to double check that you are giving the right mark to the right student. If you have a pile of papers in front of you and a dozen of them have no ID, no subject name, no class day on them, you'll probably put them to the side and deal with them later. Once you've marked the ones that are correctly labelled, you'll come back to the problem papers. For each one without the ID, you'll need to do a search using whatever information you do have to find out who the student is. This could take several minutes per paper. By the time you've spent a few hours marking, you're going to be a bit annoyed at the ones that you don't have the basic information about. Here you can see 3 actual papers that were handed to me. You can see that 2 of them don't have cover pages, while the third one has a cover page and has completed it perfectly. The first one has no information about who wrote it. That can be really annoying. Before I even mark this essay, I'm not very well disposed towards it. The next one at least has a name, but I don't know which class this person is in or what their ID number is, so I'll have to search for the information before I can enter the mark. Again, I'm not feeling very well disposed towards it. And finally, there is this essay with the cover page and all the required information, easy to find right on the front page. Yay! Now, go back to thinking like a student. Would you want someone who is annoyed to mark your paper? I imagine not. So the message is, make sure that you use a cover sheet. Use the one available from the department and available on the blog for this subject. This will make your lecturer's life easier. Okay, so that's topic number 1 for today. And that was the cover page. Other topics I'll talk about today are headers and footers, first impressions or the look of your work, the introduction, topic sentences, links, grammar and vocabulary. So let's look at the second topic, headers and footers. Imagine a lecturer who allows their students to submit work by email. They have 180 students and each one emails their essay. The lecturer has to print each one, then go to the printer, collect the papers, take them back to the office, sort through them, staple them, and then start marking. Let's imagine that on their way back from the printer, the lecturer trips and half the papers fall. Now the lecturer has to sort through them and work out which paper belongs where. That's annoying, but imagine how annoying it's going to be if the individual pages aren't numbered and aren't labelled with the student's ID. So the lesson here is to use headers and footers. Put page numbers on the bottom of each page and your name and ID on a header at the top. It's easy, and here's what it looks like when you've finished. And here's a quick look at how you can do it in Word 2010. So you go to the ribbon at the top and you choose the Insert menu. Then choose Header, and from the drop-down menu you can click on the style you want. Then on your paper you put in your name and student ID. When you've done that, you go to the footer, choose the style you want and put in the page number. The headers and footers will appear on each page. But if you don't want them on a particular page, then Google it. You'll find lots of short videos showing you how to have footers on some pages and not on others. You could search for something like Word 2010, page with no header. So far we've looked at the cover page and we've looked at headers and footers. Now let's look at first impressions. Here are two essays. Which essay looks better? 1 or 2? As someone who has to mark the papers, I'd much rather see a paper that looks like 2, because it immediately looks organised. There are clear paragraphs, it's double-spaced, and there is a lot of white space with at least 2.5 centimetres around all sides. Paper 1 looks as though the writer wasn't sure what information belonged where and just put it all together. It's one very long paragraph. It's too long for a short essay. For a short essay, you need to have several clear paragraphs and you need to keep them about the same size. So, without even reading the papers, the marker already has an impression. One is organised and the other isn't. Remember that first impressions have an important influence on the outcome of your work. I mentioned double spacing. If you don't know what double spacing is, here is a quick lesson. Firstly, this is what single spacing looks like, and this is what double spacing looks like. Basically, there is more space between the lines of text. This makes it easier for the lecturer to read your work and to comment on it. And here's how you do it. Highlight your text. Go to File on the ribbon menu at the top. Go to Line Spacing. It's a little icon with an up and down arrow with lines of text. Click it, and on the drop-down menu, you can choose different spacings. Choose 2 for double spacing. Now your text is double spaced. Okay, so that's first impressions. And the next thing to consider is the introduction. Okay, so with the introduction, if the grammar is bad and the ideas are hard to understand, and if there is no clear background, no link, no thesis statement, your paper will be difficult to read, and immediately the marker is thinking of a lower mark for your paper. In fact, even though they have only just started reading it, they may already be thinking of a fail grade. So what can you do? Well, make sure that you learn what needs to go into the introduction. Check your grammar, ask a couple of friends to read through it and give you an opinion. Make sure that you are communicating effectively. So, once again, the things to check in your introduction. Have you included background information or an attention grabber? Have you linked the background to the essay topic? Have you got a clear thesis statement that links to the topic and tells the reader broadly what they can expect to read in the next few paragraphs? Have you checked your grammar? Okay, so that's the introduction. And now we're going to look at topic sentences. We haven't looked at those yet in these lectures, but basically your topic sentence is the first sentence of each body paragraph. It needs to tell the reader what the paragraph will be about. So we'll look at 2 examples, we're looking at the first sentence of a body paragraph, and I'll read this one aloud while you consider what you think the rest of the paragraph will be about. As coffee moved from Ethiopia and into Egypt, then southeast into Yemen and back up to Turkey, coffee became a prized trading commodity, a position it still holds today. So these are the main ideas of my topic sentence, and they tell the reader what the rest of the paragraph will be about. So from this, we'd expect to read about examples of coffee being an important item in trade in the past and the role it plays in the world economy today. So the writer is telling us what to expect in the rest of the paragraph. They are signalling the content to us. And here's the second example, which I'll read aloud while you consider what the rest of the paragraph will be about. For hundreds of years, coffee has played a role in bringing people and countries together for the purposes of buying and selling, but more particularly in cultural sharing. So these are the main ideas, and we expect the rest of the paragraph to be about the role of coffee across cultures past and present. So again, the writer is signalling to us what the content of the paragraph will be. Topic sentences are an important part of your essay, and you need to consider this when you are writing. I'll show you a few more examples in a moment. In the past couple of lectures, we looked at links within an essay. Can you remember in the previous lecture, we looked at an example of an essay introduction about coffee? And this was the last sentence or the thesis statement of the introduction. And we found that the three body paragraphs will be about economic ties, culture, and an impact that is not positive, so a negative impact of coffee. So now we'll look at the first sentence of body paragraph 1. You can see that there is a clear link between the first point in the thesis statement and the first body paragraph. The introduction said body 1 would be about economic ties, and in the first sentence of body 1 we can see that link. Again, note that this graphic is only showing the first sentence of each paragraph. It's not a complete paragraph, it's not a complete essay. So we're just looking at the body paragraphs and the first sentence or topic sentence of those body paragraphs. So body 1 was about economic ties. What will the next body paragraph be about? Yes, the introduction said it would be about culture, and here we see it's talking about bringing people and countries together and about cultural sharing. So again, there is a clear link. And the third body paragraph? Yes, it's about the negative aspects of coffee. So we can see a clear link between the last sentence or thesis statement of the introduction and the topic sentence or first sentence of each body paragraph. And we'll look more at topic sentences in another lecture. But for now, you just need to be able to see the links. And the conclusion? Well, there's a link there too. Somewhere in your conclusion, you need to answer the question and you need to remind your reader of the main ideas as reflected in your thesis and paragraphs. And we'll talk more about conclusions in a later lecture. Okay, so that's linking. And let's look at our final topic for today, grammar and vocabulary. So you've been using and learning English for a long time now. You should have a good idea of where your strengths and weaknesses are. If you are weak at grammar, you need to make a list of the kinds of errors that you know that you make, and you need to check them before you hand in your work. So common errors amongst Bruneian students include these ones. So I'll just read the first few. So a missing S on the plural nouns, missing S on the end of present tense verbs with he, she and it, missing ED on a past tense, switching from one tense to another. Sometimes the subject of the sentence is not clear from the context, and you can go through and read the last problems as well. And there are more errors. So, do you make any of these mistakes? Do you make other mistakes? Okay, so we're going to do a quiz. There are 3 quizzes with 5 questions each. So here's the first one. Can you get 5 out of 5? In a moment, I'll ask you to stop the video, think about the answers, and write down the correct sentences on your paper. Okay, stop the video now. So, I'm back. Are you finished? Are you ready? Here are the mistakes. And here are the sentences written correctly. Did you get 5 out of 5? I'll give you a moment to check them. Okay, are you ready to try again? Here are the next 5. Stop the video and write the correct answers. Stop the video now. Okay, I'm back. Are you ready? Here are the mistakes. And here are the answers. Did you get 5 right this time? I'll give you a moment to check. And here are the last 5 questions. Stop the video while you write down your answers. Are you ready? Here are the mistakes. And here are the correct answers. So again, I'll give you a moment to check. So 5 out of 5? What did you get out of 15? I imagine that many of you made mistakes, and this should highlight for you the kinds of things that you need to check before you hand your work in. So be aware of your mistakes and get into the habit of checking. Even though I'm a native speaker, there are some mistakes that I know I make. There are a few words that I often spell incorrectly, and sometimes when I'm writing quickly, I write the wrong there or the wrong to. All native speakers do it, and you probably do it in your first language. So we all need to check. You should check when you write in your first language, and you should check even more carefully when you are writing in your second or third language. Make sure you've got a list of your common mistakes, and make sure you are always aware of them. Okay, and the last thing I want to look at in this lecture is vocabulary. With vocabulary, you need to make sure that you learn the basic vocabulary relevant to your topic. For example, if you're writing about climate change, you'll need to know words like this. Without these words, it'll be hard to read and research and to discuss your topic. So you need to think about the relevant vocabulary to your topic. And as well as the relevant vocabulary, you also need to consider academic vocabulary. Academic writing is formal, so we use more formal words, and you can see some examples here. Be careful with newspapers. They are a good source of common vocabulary, but they don't use academic vocabulary. Have a look through the examples. Stop the video if you need to. Okay, I'll go through the first few with you. So, in a newspaper we could write kids. In an email to a friend we can write kids. But in academic writing we use the more formal word children. We often hear the phrase, they're losers. We hear that in speaking, we might see it in an email, in informal writing. But academic writing we have to be formal, so we would say they have been unsuccessful. We commonly write the word won't, but in academic writing we don't use abbreviations, we write the words in full. So won't becomes will not, don't becomes do not. Other words, it's not a big mistake if we use them, but it's better to use a more formal word. So an example of that is think about, and a better word or a more formal word is consider. Okay, so have a look through the list, think about these words, think about the meanings, and look at how the academic words are more formal. So in this lecture we've looked at the cover page, headers and footers, first impressions or the look of your work, and we won't be talking about any of these topics again. So make sure that you understand and follow the main points. In a later lecture we'll look at topic sentences in more detail. So that's it for today. I hope that this has been useful for you.